What is up, guys? It's Justin from the Talking Pixels podcast. And before we hop in today's episode, I just needed to let you all know about a little announcement from our friends over at the Pixel Connection. This year, we're having Pixel Photo Fest 2021 live and in person. Have you got your tickets yet? If not, be sure to pick up a ticket for October 14th, 15th, and 16th. The event is going to be awesome. It's going to be full of parties, workshops, presentations, trade shows, and more. So like I said, tickets are on sale now, and you can save money by taking advantage of the early bird special pricing, which is available through September 10th. So be sure to go over to www.pixelphotofest.com to purchase your tickets. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact the Pixel Connection at 440-934-1544 or email them at social@thepixelconnection.com to find out more. Now, let's hop into today's episode. What's up? I'm Justin, and welcome to the Talking Pixels podcast, helping you take your photography from hobby to a career. Today, we're switching it up a little bit. Up until today, I've only sat down and spoke with photographers as guests, but I'm excited to change that up a little bit. Today, we're sitting down with a fellow Clevelander and cinematographer, Keith Dela Rosa. Keith creates some of the most hype music videos I've seen come out of the city, and he's worked with artists like Machine Gun Kelly and Doughboy. He and his team have also won 9 awards at the Cleveland 48-Hour Film Festival, including Best Film back in 2018. So without further ado, Keith, welcome to the Talking Pixels podcast.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, man. Pleasure. How is it going? How are things going today for you?
Oh man, pretty busy. I mean, lately, I guess really this whole month has just been jam-packed with a lot of shoots, meetings, just trying to work with some more clients and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually recently just left the 9 to 5, so now I'm doing video full time now. So it's been a big change, but you know, it's exciting.
Dude, it's so exciting. Sure. I was actually, that leads perfectly because I was actually going to bring that up. And just say, you know, we were talking a little bit before we recorded this episode about how you recently went full-time with videography. I also took my photography business full-time this past year. So I relate to you on such a level. It's so exciting to get to that point, but it's been so stressful working up to this point, you know, and just trying to get there. So I'm glad to hear things are going well, and keeping busy is never a bad thing in this career path, because there's so many ups and downs of, you know, what's actually going on in the time of year, and especially in Cleveland, you know, I mean, shoot, it's April 1st and we got snow today, and it's basically blizzarding out. So.
I know, right?
So
yeah, you'll never know what happens.
No, it's so Ohio, right? But yeah, man, I wanted to ask you a little bit more. I mean, I know since you just got to full time for your own business, and why don't you maybe tell listeners and even myself a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you're at now?
So yeah, it's just pretty crazy. So music has really been a big part of my life. So before I was shooting videos and all that, I was actually rapping. I was making music. I was DJing, trying to produce music. Yeah. So and what kind of led me to picking up the camera was you know, I've always watched my favorite artists, and they would be, you know, making vlogs in the studio and stuff like that, and that kind of inspired me to do the same. So I picked up a little camcorder and, you know, just kind of film random things here and there. And I would just kind of edit it in Windows Movie Maker and iMovie, nothing special. And eventually, later down the road, I kind of lost the inspiration to write. So you know, I still had the camera and everything, and I still was interested. You know, I snowboard, I do a lot of outdoor stuff. So I would film that and kind of just edit it to music. And that kind of led me to working with one of my really good friends. He's an R&B artist. So I shot a little poem for him. It's like a poem / little ballad. Shot that on a GoPro and a camcorder. Wasn't anything special at all, but some people actually liked it. So from there, I would just, just edit or shoot and edit music videos for like gas money and stuff like that, and started saving up. And eventually bought my first DSLR. It was a Nikon D5300. So that was like my first official camera. And ever since then, it was just kind of like, I was just working with more artists because I guess that's kind of like the circle I was around. So,
Right.
like I said, music was a real big part. So, being around that environment, it just kind of led me to meeting more musicians and just doing more work with them. And, eventually now I turned a passion into kind of a career. It's pretty crazy. So, always building.
Dude, that's awesome. And I relate to that too, because um actually when I was in high school and into college, actually I was in a band, and when I started photography, that was like the only connections I really had, like I started out doing music and shooting
Yeah.
concerts and promos, album covers, like all that stuff. And eventually got out of it. I mean, it just wasn't, I don't know. You've made a much better career path out of it than I did, but I was struggling with like local musicians and trying to get paid by these guys. And like, a
Oh,
band of
yeah,
four
yeah.
or five guys can't come up with $200 for a photo shoot. And I'm like, come on, like, how am I supposed to do anything with this? And so I eventually gave
Yeah.
up on that, but I relate to it because like, dude, music was such a big influence on me creatively. And then like, with
Yeah.
photography coming into it, and just like I don't know, it was like it opened a new door for me that I didn't even realize was going to be there. But like for yourself,
Yeah.
like you do a lot of, I mean, most of what I see your work is like music videos, but like do you do other stuff as
Yeah.
well, or like how's your like I don't know how to say this. How do you like kind of break down your business in terms of like percentages of like what you're actually producing video wise?
So I guess, yeah, majority of the stuff I do is music videos, but I'm always down to like do different projects. So, like you had mentioned earlier, I did a few short films, worked with a group of people to, produce a short film. I've done weddings, little promo videos, automotive videos, like fitness related stuff. So I'm
Sure.
kind of like all around. Um, but really it all does come, it's all like full circle. It all does come to music. Especially with the way I edit things, it's always just cut up to music. Just some high energy or even just kind of like slower stuff. But I think, just like you were saying, it's kind of like the environment you're around. So like most of the people I know are musicians or some sort of creative, so that's kind of like what I do. But I'm really trying to move towards more business oriented stuff. Maybe even short films or documentary work. So
Oh, sweet.
I know eventually it'll come, but yeah, it's just kind of slowly progressing into different things because I definitely want to branch out and be more hands-on in different types of, I guess, aspects of video. So
Right. The
yeah.
whole diversification process is more of like a long game, right? Like you start out in your
Yeah,
niche
for
and
sure.
then like kind of branch out into more things. Like I've started doing that myself recently, and like I
Mhm.
don't do near the like type of video work and like the production scale that you do on your shoots, but I've done some commercial work as well, and that's something that's newer to me.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but like it's just like a building process, right? Like you establish yourself in one aspect of the business, and then you got to work towards that other one, and you just like it never ends. But the
Yeah.
diversification, I think, is a big part of what allows you to do this full time, right? Like it's
Oh
very
yeah, for sure.
tricky, especially being in a city like Cleveland, to say,
Mhm.
hey, I do music videos and that's all I do. Well, but like,
Yeah.
realistically, how many artists are there in Cleveland that can afford to pay for music videos to, I should say, afford to be able to pay for you to do this full time, So, and I know you do some traveling
Yeah.
too, which is cool, but still, it's nicer to be able to diversify that a little bit and say, I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you open up your client
Oh
pool.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And also I guess it kind of helps me as far as like my skill set, working with like short films compared to music videos. I mean, you kind of have to have, it's like a different eye on things, different shots. Lighting things is different in a music video
Right.
compared to a short film. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like, being diversified, it definitely helps with the skill set, just to makes me better. So, you know.
Yeah, and that actually like was a question that I wanted to ask you about a little bit too, because I know how different those worlds are. And I've never
Yeah.
actually shot a short film myself, but it's super interesting to me. I mean, and that's such a team oriented project. And I know like in a lot of
No,
video, it
definitely.
is team oriented, but in a short film or any type of real film, it's a bigger project than just saying like, yeah,
No, yeah.
I got my grip and I got my lighting guy and then I got myself and we're going to go make this video. But then you got to have writers, you got to have actors. Like, I mean, it's a whole other gamut of
Exactly.
stuff. So like, could you maybe speak a little bit about like what that experience is like working with like a larger team like that? And as a DP, you know, what is your role within that, and like how did you kind of find your way into working in short films? I know that's like
So
three
I get,
questions.
yeah, yeah. So I guess I kind of got into it working with Darren Lorenzi, Sean Manos. Those are a couple guys. I've worked with them. I knew them through music when I was doing music.
Okay.
And they kind of were more focused into the short film work. So working with them, they kind of like brought me into, I guess, the short film world. And working with the crew is amazing. Like it's different. It's a different change of pace. Everyone kind of has their own like set role, which makes the day. I mean, it makes the day much more efficient, but at the same time, it's like there are very long days. Like we'll be shooting at least 12 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
Sometimes we won't be able to eat, you know what I mean? Just because we're always like doing something. But having that many people, like, camera assistants, we got directors, we got, the writers are there and stuff like that. It's definitely a lot more efficient, like I said, but um, it definitely makes it fun because there's a lot more eyes, and there's more of a like everyone is more creative when they're all
Right.
together, and I feel like it helps the vision a lot more. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big change of pace just because, like, when I do music videos, sometimes it's just really me or one other person. So I'm like running around trying to set up lights,
Yeah. Doing
running around
everything.
trying to get all the extras all lined up and stuff like that. Working with a crew, it's much more like stress free in a way, but it is a long day. We have to wake up super early, 6 a.m. call times or something like that.
Yep.
But it's much more, yeah, it's much more fun. I feel like it's definitely different. So
Yeah, it's got to be more of a collaborative process, I would imagine, because you have those, like you mentioned,
yeah,
like having those other set of or multiple sets of eyes from different facets
yes,
of creativity, right? You have your writers, you have your directors, the act. Well,
hmm,
I don't know how much the actors necessarily contribute to the actual visuals of the short film itself, but
yeah,
then you have your audio guys, and like so, there's a lot of different mixture of ideas coming
right,
together there, which I have to imagine
hmm,
one, like in my experience of at least of working in collaborative environments like that, like I end up enjoying that so much more because like ideas that I maybe wouldn't have had like surface from
yeah,
that, and then you end up with some like
right,
amazing
yeah.
visuals out of it, which has to be so like rewarding to see in the end. And obviously you guys did. I've not actually seen that short film that won the all those awards, but I mean that's pretty incredible.
Hmm.
Now, with that experience, that was a 48-hour film festival. Now, what exactly is that? Is that like you have 48 hours to record and turn around like the short film, or
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it okay?
It's yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's really intense. So like the first time, yeah, when we won all those awards, that was my first time doing it. So
Oh, it's amazing.
you literally get so Friday evening, I think it's like Friday evening, they get all the, I guess, you get like a certain line you have to say, a certain genre that you have to do, and I think like it's like a certain topic that you have to like, or no, a
Okay.
certain prop that you have to use. So like everyone picks from a hat or something like that, and it's all random. So then Friday night you have to like come get together with a team. You have to write everything. You have to, get the actors, and then Saturday, wake up super early, and that's your whole day to shoot. So like from like 6 a.m. to maybe like 10 p.m. at night, you're shooting. And after you're done shooting, you got to edit it right away. And then I think you have to submit it by like Sunday at 6 p.m. And then from there, I think there's like, a week where everybody watches it all, and then it's like the awards time.
Wow.
So it's definitely stressful. Like
Dude, that's crazy.
It's a weekend of really no sleep. Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, I was gonna say, because starting Friday night and then having to film the next morning after writing, I can't imagine there's much sleep that happens between those two. But
yeah,
that's
it's
insane.
Crazy.
And so, but like, what is the team building of that like? Like, do you go into that with, your crew already established? Like, you already know who's going to be directing, who's going to be writing, or is that something you have to sort out within that Friday night period?
So that's pretty much kind of just already sorted out.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the way we did it. I mean, it was just like a group of friends. So it's like we kind of already had our team, but
right.
But as far as finding like actors and stuff, actors, actresses, that's like where we kind of have to start, I guess, kind of asking people, make a Facebook post like,
Wow.
hey, any extras can be a part of this and stuff like that. So I guess that's pretty much like the crunch time, writing, getting locations, and getting the actors or extras and stuff, which is really like, yeah.
Dude, finding actors in that short period of time is insane, because sometimes it can take me, well over 48 hours just to find a model for a shoot. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
To be able to pull out actors on like a Friday night and be like, hey, you available tomorrow morning to come out and shoot for 12 hours? Like, what? That is so crazy. But, dude, but it paid off, obviously.
For sure.
What was your role on that film? To be a director of photography, or what was your role in that film?
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of the direct DP, and also I was doing the lighting.
Okay.
And then we had, I think Misha was shooting it. And then I think Darren was help directing it. Sean was, I think he wrote it. And then we had like, everybody else, like the grip and stuff like that. So, so it was wild. It was cool. Like, I think we shot at like a bar. We shot at one of their apartments, and some outside stuff too. So yeah, it was intense.
Yes. So as like a DP, it's your job to visually tell that storyline of the short film that you're working on, or the music video for that matter. You're telling the storyline visually. But how do you go about making, like, I'm thinking from somebody who wants to get into short films, right? Like somebody who wants to become a cinematographer and, be a DP on, or maybe even feature films for that matter. But how do you go about making connections with like writers and actors in the area so that you can have those people to kind of draw on if you're wanting to pull something together like a short film? And especially in a smaller city, I'm sure like if you're in LA or you're in New York, they're probably everywhere and not super hard to find. But like in somewhere like Cleveland, I think it's it's a little bit more few and far between. So, for other people out there listening, like, how do you go about making those connections?
I guess really just you kind of have to just put yourself out there. As far as there's Facebook groups, local Facebook groups that is really all around the Cleveland filmmaking group.
Okay.
Go to they have little. You could even join like when the 48-hour film festival, like when they show the films, go to that event because it's free to get in. And you could watch all the films. You could meet all the people who were involved in each film. Just shake hands. Meet these people. I think face-to-face meeting is really the best way.
Definitely.
And I mean, even contact me. I mean, I'll be more than happy to bring people on. And whether they just want to hang out or they want to grab some BTS and stuff like that. I'm always down to help up and coming filmmakers or whatever, and just to get their foot in the door and start meeting these people. I feel like that's the most important thing, is just kind of like getting out there, make yourself in uncomfortable situations, like new situations,
Right.
just go out there and just meet people. But because as far as me, that's how I kind of grew into it. Talking to like Darren and Sean, them bringing me onto the 48-hour film festival, that kind of helped me, realize how many people there are that are in the, filmmaking industry here. Because, with the music side, it's different than the
Oh, definitely.
filmmaking side. So I met a whole bunch of people, going to these 48-hour film festivals, just going to the award shows. And, it's a whole different aspect. It's pretty crazy because, like you were saying, as far as like finding actors and actresses, within the film community, there's just like hundreds of people always waiting. They're
Wow.
waiting to be, part of a film. So there was like a music video that we did in, I think it was in November, December. Like, we needed extras, and they actually found people that were part of the filmmaking community. And I had worked with one of these guys before, back in the day, and it was nice to see them come into the music video world, because like it was a totally different
Right.
different thing for them, rather than shooting a short film. Like, we were shooting a music video, so it was like cool to see them
The
part of that.
crossover.
So
Yeah, that's
the crossover. Yeah, so
it's that was you also said something that stood out to me there about like, you're like, even get in touch with me and like come take BTS, like come see what it's about. And I think that's a big
yeah,
part that people like miss out on. I mean, not, maybe not necessarily like with you specifically, but I think a lot of people like
yeah,
love the idea of working on a film and want to be, in production and working, but
yeah,
they don't know where to start. And I think the best way to get started in something like that is to, one, volunteer the time for free and be, connect with somebody who's doing this and
yeah,
say, hey, can I come and take behind the scenes videos or photos of you? Because of course, like
yeah,
someone like you is going to need that, right? It's great social media content. It's great to show what
yeah.
you do, and who's going to say no to that free content. And then it also gets you that
Yeah,
foot in the door. Now you're making those connections with the people who are working on the set. You make new friends.
yeah,
People you can draw on in the future, that if, maybe down the road you want to take the lead on one of these projects, and you can, make these connections with people within the industry. I think that's a really great way to go about doing it. If you're not sure how to really get involved with it, is just to go in and like be as helpful as you can in whatever way you can.
yep. Yeah,
Um,
that's major for sure. Yeah, just volunteering the time. I feel like that is a very big thing. You know what I mean? Whether it's a couple hours, just swing by and hang out. Grab some BTS, bring your camera, and yeah, just come hang out and just start meeting people. I think that's definitely a big thing for sure.
Yeah, it's a cool exchange of like, you're exchanging your time for connections and education essentially, right? As like that person who's coming into
Yep.
that, because you're getting to meet all those people, you're getting to learn what it's actually like working on that set. And so, while you may not be getting paid, or maybe, you're not really in a role that you want to be in, it's a good direction
Yeah.
to head in there. Now, I also wanted to ask you too, because you touched on it a little bit ago, and we kind of went off onto the a little bit more in depth about these videos and the films, and making these connections in the film world.
Yeah.
But you said, I the reason we even are doing this right now is because I saw the other day on Facebook you posted, you were considering doing like one-on-one Zoom calls because you've been getting a lot of questions from up and coming filmmakers. And, and you even just
Oh yeah.
mentioned a little bit ago about how you don't like, I don't know, you're not like hiding information. You want to share it with up and coming filmmakers and like help them get better. So,
Oh yeah,
um,
definitely.
I wanted to ask a little, what are some of the things that you've been getting asked, and like, where do you see a lot of beginner filmmakers struggling right now? And, are there ways that they can kind of combat that, or, improve upon those things?
I guess really the main, like one of the like top two questions is like, what camera should I buy, and like what editing software is the best.
Right.
Like really, I feel like when people come into this, they think like, buying the best camera is like the all-in-one solution, like I just want people to realize, when you're first starting out, you just gotta like just start off with anything, whether it's like a $200 camera or something like that. I mean, I started off with a camcorder and a GoPro. So it's like,
right.
As long as you just have to have the experience. I mean, it's like you can't. A camera's not going to teach you like buying the best camera is not going to teach you like composition or like teach you how to do properly light a scene or proper storytelling. You just have to have that practice. You have there's ISO, there's the aperture, and the shutter speed. Those are like the three main things. And with most cameras, they're all the same. So as long as you can like work with a cheap camera, just get your experience off that. That way, you can upgrade down the road, sell that old equipment, upgrade down the road. And, a lot of people don't realize too, lenses are a big thing too. So there's different type of focal lengths and, different types of looks when you change focal lengths and stuff. And, people have to realize that. So I feel like, cameras, there's so many, it all kind of depends on your budget. But at the same time, it's like practice is everything. That's just really what's going to make you better rather than, spending like $3,000 on the camera when you're first starting out. And then as far as like editing software, I use Final Cut. A lot of people use Premiere. And then there's also DaVinci Resolve. But in my opinion, they all work the same. They all do the same thing. You could make transitions in all of them. You can export videos all the same way. So it's really what you're comfortable with. I feel like that's just a big thing, whether
Definitely.
you want to, because like really the only thing different I see with all those three is DaVinci's free. Final Cut is a one-time payment, and then Adobe you're paying month to month. So I mean that's really up, it's user preference from there. So I feel like those are really the two main things where someone's starting out. I feel like that's kind of like what they should kind of focus on is practice and it's user preference, whatever you're comfortable with learning.
Right.
On, so
yeah, that's and I think that's in all aspects of creativity and specifically to film and video and stills is just the fundamentals is key before you go about investing into any serious type of equipment, right? Like, I can't think of anything worse than dropping like $3,000 to $5,000 on a camera setup and then losing interest in it in like, 6 months.
Oh,
and then
yeah, that's, yep.
So like, you're almost better off, starting with something that's like not super great, getting a used camera or like go, the route you said, like starting with something really simple and then focusing on those key elements of what makes this an art, right? Like what makes video or photo an art, in the sense that you have to understand like what different focal lengths do, how do they affect the image that you're creating, why are you shooting at a high ISO versus a low ISO, and then aperture as well, like you mentioned. Like there's so many keys that involve a mastery of just the basic mastery of a camera. And then from there, once you have that down, you can create amazing visuals with that same camera, right? Like you don't necessarily need at some point you're going to upgrade, but you don't need to, because you've already learned the fundamentals, you've learned the basics of it, and you can combine all that knowledge and still create a great visual with even not a super great camera, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these days, I've seen like little short films shot on an iPhone. It's crazy. Like, cameras. Gear matters to an extent, but really when you're first starting out, you just got to use whatever you can and kind of learn from that. Because, like you said, someone starting out may not even be interested in this in a year. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't waste the money, and don't be out $5,000 because you bought an amazing camera and then now you're having trouble trying to sell it because you're not really interested in it anymore.
Right.
So, that's big. So,
and I think a lot of people also just don't really feel like putting in the work to get to that point. They're like, oh, I'm just going to get a really dope camera and I'm going to make amazing videos. It's going to be super sick. And then they get out there and they try to do it and they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing now. So like, this isn't, I'm not going to, this sucks. I hate this. And they don't invest that time into learning like, okay, this is why that, that shot didn't work because I was, I'm shooting at 1600 ISO and it's daylight and no wonder it came out totally overexposed, So like,
exactly.
It's a time game too. I think, you definitely you're not going to be creating these amazing, stunning visuals as you're just getting into it, that like, I don't even know, but like, I would say probably the first 3 years of taking photos, like I look back at those and I'm like, those are garbage. Like I wouldn't show anybody those images anymore, So like, it's definitely a time game to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm the same way. Like I'll be looking back at my old work and like I'm thinking like, oh wow, did I really shoot it that way? Or like, wow, the lighting was terrible on that.
Yeah.
Like it's cool looking back on it though, because like I see the progression. So
right.
It makes me always motivated to just keep doing better. So
absolutely. Yeah, but so I actually want to deviate a little bit now and go back to the music video thing that we were talking about before. So you've obviously, music videos has been a big part, like maybe your bread and butter of your business now for years. And with your music experience previous to coming into cinematography, obviously it's been a big part of your life, but you've now managed to work with some pretty big names in the music industry. I mean, most notably, I would say probably MGK is one of the biggest artists out there right now. Also a Cleveland native too, but like, so, and you've also been able to film music videos on all sorts of budgets. I mean, I saw one that you did within the past year. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was like a whole team effort. There's tons of extras and stuff, and you're shooting at a school, and like, dude, it was just like an insane production for a music video, right? Like, I don't see people doing that locally here, at least. So, how do you go about creating like those connections where you're now at a point where you're able to work with somebody like MGK or produce I don't know what the total budget was on that photo shoot, but I'm assuming it wasn't $2,000, like, so how do you build up to that? And what would you say to somebody who's wanting to make a name for themselves in like music video production to help them get to a point where they're working in a scenario like that?
Yeah, I feel like the way I did it is I did a lot of things for free. So I did, a lot of discounted work, working with friends and always just constantly putting out content, whether it's, music videos I've done, or just little personal projects. I would always constantly post stuff on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And I feel like just flooding everyone's feed with content, like new stuff every day, really helped. And like I said, doing stuff for free, I'm not saying you have to do stuff for free all the time, but when you're first starting out, you kind of want to do that in a way because you want to get the experience, you want to get your name out there, and you want to have just content to put together a reel. Because having a reel, I think, is very major, especially to showcase your work to other people. Because I feel like that's kind of how I just was able to work at MGK and Doughboy and all these big name artists, just because they were always constantly seeing my work. So, and it was just all just really word of mouth. Word of mouth and social media, I think, is a major thing. So, doing a lot of stuff like that, eventually people are going to start contacting you. They're going to be like, oh, they're going to be talking within their circle. They're going to be like, oh, who shot this video? And they're going to be like, oh, so-and-so did.
Right.
And then they're going to reach out to you. So it's just like a chain of events and stuff like that. So whether you got to do stuff for cheap or free, that may happen, but you always have to just, constantly always do things. Consistency is key, in my opinion. And also you just got to be patient, because you're going to run into people where they might not, pay what you expect when you're first starting out, but
Right.
you can't, try not to get frustrated when you do that. Eventually everything is going to come to full circle, as long as you're constantly working, constantly, putting out stuff. Cause, eventually people are just going to respect your work, and, they're going to pay that price, what,
Definitely.
the price that you deserve, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just consistency, I feel like, is major. So
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I mean, that's kind of, so I studied photography at Ohio University for 4 years, and that's Southeast Ohio. So coming back to Cleveland, over the course of 4 years, I really lost a lot of connections with people that I had up here. And that was actually part of the reason I got out of music, is because I was so disconnected from the music scene for so long. It felt like, all the people who were active in it or were the bands that I had known are no longer, or they've moved on, or they started new bands. And so it was like coming back to a place where I didn't really feel like I had connections to anything, like let alone the, photography or, I guess photography community in general. But that's exactly what I did too. Is, I mean, I just started asking people to shoot for free, and it was just like you said,
yeah,
consistency. I agree with that 100%. Like, I was trying to do at least a photo shoot a week with a new person that I'd never met, and then just kept going, kept going, kept going until people started seeing like, oh, this person's worked with this person, or Justin's worked with this person and that person and that person, and then people would
yeah,
start reaching out to me for those shoots, and that's when it was like, okay, now I have a platform that I can start charging for these on, because people are seeing the work that I'm doing and they're coming to me for it. And I gotta imagine it works the same way with an artist like MGK on a almost like on a bigger platform, right? Like, you work with MGK on a shoot, and then all the people who look up to MGK are like, oh, I gotta have that guy. Like, that's my guy now. Like,
yep,
and
yeah,
so I think it's just that scale. You got to kind of, you work up that scale, I'm sure, a little bit. You start with local artists, and then you get to, one of these local artists is tight with somebody else who may have a little bit bigger of a following, and that just kind of snowballs up to the point where you're reaching that these big artists who have budgets that are worth, really working on, versus
yeah,
ones where you might start out doing like a video shoot for $250 or something like that. Doesn't even cover your
yeah.
time really, but like, you got to start somewhere to build up to that point where you're able to make some serious money off of doing these gigs, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. And also the fact that, being able to, whether you got to do stuff for free or anything like that, I mean, it also just helps you become better. I mean,
True.
the more you keep working, your visuals are going to get better. Cause you're going to start seeing things that, I guess that you may have not done on the previous shoot. You may
Right.
want to try new things. Cause the more opportunities you have, it's like, oh, okay, now I'm going to do better this time. I'm going to, switch things up. So, just constantly putting yourself out there it's all going to be a positive thing. So it's like, I feel like a lot of people, they kind of focus on, oh, I need this certain amount of money,
Yeah.
or, they're very, I guess, like, kind of uptight in a way. Like they don't want to do things for free, or they don't want to do things discounted when they're first starting out. It's like you're kind of just holding yourself back in a way, because
Yeah.
like you don't have the experience, you don't have the content to put out there to be like, oh yeah, I've done all this type of work. So yeah, I feel like, being able to just keep doing stuff in a way, it's just going to make you better.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
sort of like a recurring theme that, like, I mean, I speak to a lot of people um on this podcast who all bring this up in some form or another, and I was curious what your thought is on it. But mentorship is a recurring theme that a lot of people talk about. Like, finding a mentor is so key in this business to really learn and understand the fundamentals of it, and try to build your business without making the same mistakes that they made. Almost like a shortcut to, I don't want to say shortcut to success, because there's a lot of work that goes along with it, but like, help you avoid some mistakes that come along the way that a lot of people face. Now, and it sounds to me like you're kind of toying with the idea of mentoring others, like up and coming videographers, cinematographers, people who are just kind of getting into it. So I wanted to ask you, have you actually worked with a mentor to get to where you are now, or do you have somebody that you look up to for advice and stuff like this? Or are you entirely just like self-taught? You've built this from the ground up with, little to no help from anyone else?
I guess a little bit of both. I mean, technically, I didn't really have a mentor, but in a way, I did just kind of like follow, a few people, like cinematographers and stuff, whether it's like YouTube videos, YouTube
Right.
tutorials. Um, like I found that, watching certain people, it kind of helped me learn. Whether it's, yeah, like I said, like YouTube tutorials, like Jacob Owens is a big guy that I kind of like look up to. He does a lot of great work, and watching some of his videos on how he explains, how to do business properly, or how to tips on shooting music videos, like watching that stuff definitely helps. So I feel like that's kind of like what kind of inspired me or motivated me.
Sure.
Also, like watching some of my favorite music video directors, is even just watching their music videos, kind of like seeing how things were shot, seeing how things were edited. It would kind of inspire me to kind of do the same thing, and then also put like my style into it. So I feel like, some people say like, copying a certain style is like bad, but in a way it kind of teaches you how to do things. And it, once you learn how to do that, you can kind of put your own twist to it. So,
Yeah.
I feel like, just watching some of my favorite music videos, watching some YouTubers and stuff like that. That's kind of like how I learned everything. So, I feel like that's just, all the information's out there, especially,
Yeah, right.
with the internet, it's crazy. There's so much out there that you can just learn. So
Yeah, people just give
it's
it away
wild.
too. But you're right. I
Yeah.
mean, the kind of finding your own style thing that you were just touching on is like, a lot of people are like in Facebook groups and stuff that I'm in. I see people are like, like what kind of presets do you guys use and this and that. And a couple years ago, if you asked me about presets, I absolutely hated the idea of presets because I felt like it was, a shortcut. I felt like it wasn't
Yeah.
really creating your own style. But what I came to learn is that presets give you an understanding of what's happening to that image, right? So in that
Yes.
sense
Yes.
that like you get to understand like, okay, why does it make my image look like this? And then you can kind of then, I think where it gets to be, I don't know, not necessarily a problem, but like where I have a problem with it is when people just get sucked into the idea of like, this preset is my style and don't really come up with their own creative style to it. Because I think that's a really important
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of any visual is like adding your own flair into it so that it's not just somebody else's style, it's your style. But that's a great point as to, like you said, it's just kind of like, seeing what it is that you like and then making it more for you, for I
Right.
guess a
Right.
lack of a better term. But so I'm curious though. So as primarily a self-taught person and a self-taught business person, aside from watching YouTube videos and learning from other creatives online, I mean, what's your opinion on like an actual like one-on-one mentorship with somebody? Because like I said, it sounds like you're kind of almost diving into that or like about to be diving into that in terms of
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
others. So like what's your kind of thought on actual face-to-face mentorship or digital mentorships with somebody who is actively doing this professionally?
Yeah, I think it would be amazing to do that. Because being able to, I feel like I wish I kind of had someone kind of like that.
Right.
So it's like, just someone to ask questions where they're like just very responsive. Cause I don't know. Cause I feel like if I, before, like I would ask, message some people and like ask them little questions here and there. And most of the time they wouldn't respond. So it's like,
Right.
but if I do get a response, like it feels amazing. Like, oh yeah, cool. Like this guy's really cool. And he's willing to help out. And I feel like that's why I want to get into it. Cause I want, up and comers to feel comfortable asking questions. I want them to feel comfortable and be like, because I hate it when they hide the information. Like I just
Yeah.
don't think that's right at all. Like, because the information's out there. They're gonna get it one way or another.
Yeah.
And
There's
some
no
people are
secrets.
afraid they're gonna be yeah, they're afraid that they're gonna like take their clients or something like that. Like at the end of the day, everybody has their own vision, everybody has their own style. You can teach someone exactly how you do your thing, but they're probably not going to get it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they're going to put some sort of flair onto it. So, yeah, I feel like, being able to help someone one on one is definitely a great thing, and that's definitely something that I want to do. Whether it's one on one or some sort of group thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what I kind of essentially want to do, is kind of like create like a videographer group where not only they can ask me questions, but they can also collaborate with everyone else within the group. Just bounce some ideas and stuff like that, or just get help from one another, whether it's from me or someone else.
Yep.
So being able to mentor someone, I think I think that would be major for sure. Cause I know a lot of people they're not very helpful, but some people are, and you come across different personalities and stuff like
Right.
that. So, yeah. So
Yeah, like some people are just more naturally educators in what they do and the way that they
yeah,
explain things and go about doing stuff. And I mean, you're right. Like I agree with you wholeheartedly that the information's out there. I don't get why anybody tries to act like there's industry secrets anymore. Because if you want to find out about it, I guarantee it's a Google search away or a YouTube search away. You're going to find out about it. So
yeah,
it's there's nothing to hide anymore. It's just a matter of, I kind of look at it as a way of sharing the experience and knowledge that you've gained as a professional, right? Like that's why I've started doing a
yeah,
wedding photographer guide series on YouTube. I've been doing it for 5 years now. I've seen a
yeah,
lot of things, and as somebody who
yeah,
may be just getting into it, there's a lot of what ifs and I don't knows, and so my whole reasoning behind doing that is like, I think that by sharing that information, you're not hurting yourself. You're only helping the industry. And that's kind of how I look
oh
at it.
yeah,
You know, it's video. I don't know if video's seen this. I mean, I'm sure you've faced it too, where people offer you just like dirt cheap money for something that you're going to produce for them. And it's like almost insulting to hear because that happens all the time in
yeah, yeah,
photography, but like, I think by educating other people and helping them become better, that ultimately raises, what that dollar amount does, right? Or like what that is worth, I should say. So like if everybody's producing content at a $1,500 level, that's where it starts, right? But if there, you got to get out of that low range to get up to those amounts. And I think you're not going to get there unless you're sharing that information with everybody else because, you know, there
yeah,
are going to be people who are constantly undercutting you. And that's, if that's their business, that's cool. But I think, I don't see why there isn't a reason that everyone shouldn't be able to make a living off of this. If you put your time and effort into it, you should be able to do it. And I think that's a whole part of why mentorship's important and why finding somebody who can help you along the way is a good way to go about it. And I think, in a way, a little bit of a shortcut. You can spend less time on the things that that person may have spent years or months on,
yeah,
and you can just kind of bypass
yeah.
that stuff and move on.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, I guess as far as you and I, if we're mentoring someone, we have probably ran into different situations that they may find by a Google search. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So like everything's unique. So it's like if I were to ask you something about photography or something like that, I'm sure you could tell me some certain stories that I wouldn't be able to find online.
Sure.
So it would help others just to get different types of viewpoints on things like that, or they can get exposed to different situations, and I guess it's just kind of like more personable in a way,
Yeah, I was
just
going to
being
say the
able to talk
personal
to somebody,
experience aspect of it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
As opposed to going online and having somebody talk at you, you can actually have a conversation with that person about,
yeah,
hey, here's the situation I'm in. How do I cope with that? Like, what do I do? What's the proper response to this client? Whatever it ends up being. But you could Google search it, but you're never probably going to find the answer 100%. You're going to get in that
right.
direction, but by talking to somebody who may have been there before, you're going to get a lot further through that process than you are by just going and
Oh,
looking up,
yeah,
somebody doing 5 tips on something or, how to do
yeah,
this or whatever. You're just never going to get a full answer out of it. It's just very general
right,
typically. And
yeah,
that's why that's why those videos do so well and they get so many views is because they are general and it, gets you to a point. But when you need a specific answer, you're not going to find that probably.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
as a creative and a business owner, this is something I've not actually talked to anyone about, but I'm curious with you because you're newer into your full-time business. What what direction do you see yourself heading in over the course of the next like 3 to 5 years? And, do you set goals? And if you do, what kind of goals are you setting for yourself? And then what's your approach to kind of manifesting those to make sure that they happen for you?
So I guess like really my big goal now, I would like to create this to be bigger than me, because right now really cinematics is really just me. But
Right.
I would love to, get a group of people, whether it's another videographer, an editor, some more production team, like a production crew. I feel like that would be my, I guess really the ultimate goal is like just to have like cinematics as like a production crew, whether we're doing like producing commercials for big businesses, producing short films, or even major films. That would be amazing.
Right.
So I think that would be the ultimate goal, is just kind of have a team under me, whether it's, we're here, or, we're flying out to different states and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I definitely want to expand. I think that's just a major thing.
Yeah, definitely. And so like up to this point, what do you have any strategies or anything that you've used to kind of help you get, whether you're looking at that 3 to 5 year plan of where you want to expand to, or if you reflect back on what you've done over the past 3 to 5 years, is there anything that's been notable, or at least something that you do on a regular basis that you feel actually helps you get to that direction? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in a mindset of like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not going to get there. But these goal setting processes are I think a step by step process to get to it, right? Like it's not just like, okay, I'm going to expand my team and I'm going to have, a full production company. Of course there's going to be steps along the way. So like, maybe not necessarily for that one, because I know that's may even be a work in process for you. But if you look back on the past 3 to 5 years, what has really been impactful for you to build up cinematics to where it is now?
I think just really networking with all the opportunities that I've had, just meeting all sorts of people, working with certain people. It's kind of opened my eyes on who I really want to work with. So it's like right now, like I have, a few people that I would love to have under cinematics, and it might even happen soon.
Nice.
Working with these guys, it's like, it's amazing. It's fun. So I try and get them, with me whenever I have a shoot. So we're just constantly building. We're constantly, working together, and, eventually we'll probably come together and kind of build something. So I guess over the past 3 years and stuff like that, I think really just making these connections and just, constantly, reaching out to them every now and then. And, they reach out to me every now and then, whether they need help. Uh, I just feel like, the network that I have is I guess, the most valuable thing. So that also comes down to like, for people who are just starting out, just meet people, like
Yeah.
meet these people, because that's going to be the major thing that's going to really drive you up in this industry, is just knowing the right people. So
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
100%. I mean, I totally agree with that too. We have an episode in our first season that it was called "Your Network is Your Net Worth," right? And
Right.
we used to have I used to have a co-host on this too, and we kind of talked about just how important it is to build those connections in the industry, because you never know where your next job is going to come from when you get to this point of like freelancing. There's no, I can't look out 6 months, well, aside from weddings, but I can't look out 6 months from now and say, I know this person's going to book me for this, because you just don't know. There's so many people doing this, and people's word is worth not much until you get a signed agreement in your hands. So
Exactly.
I've the networking thing itself for me has been huge too. I mean, I started doing networking events and hosting them to meet all the people as many people as I could in the industry, and just learn from them too. Because like, even if somebody is starting out, I feel like there's still something you could learn from that person, whether it's, it may not be fundamentals of what you're doing, but it could be creatively, it could be, expressionally, or, it may just open up your viewpoint to what you're doing. So I think the networking thing in itself is a huge aspect of it, just to go out there and meet new people and learn from all the new people that you meet from, because it's only going to make you more well-rounded as a creative.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just really just getting your name out there, because
True.
like, I just found like after working with so many people, it's like you start to see the same people over and over again. So it's like, you kind of just put yourself into the industry. I mean, I feel like that's just with anything, whether it doesn't have anything to do with photo or video. Like if you just start a business, you just have to meet the right people just
Right.
to, really excel and be better. I mean, that's just like finding a right, any sort of job really. You just have to, you can put out like 1,000 applications or whatever, but probably the best job is going to be who's going to like refer you there, or someone that works at like a
True.
certain company. So yeah.
Yeah, and this may have a little bit to do with like the networking and development for you at least. But I was doing a little digging on you before we got on here, and I came across a feature that Channel 3 News here in Cleveland did on you a couple years back,
Oh
about I
yeah.
forget what it was called, but it was something about like hardworking and something hardworking. But
Oh
there's a
yeah, hardworking
yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So there's a quote within the article that I saw that came from you that they had shared. And I wanted to, just pick your brain on a little bit more, because I know that was a couple years ago that you did that. And see if you have any additional insight now, or if you still feel the same way about it. But the quote was, "It's not about the gear, it's about the person using it and how they use it. Focus on the creativity, not on shiny new toys. You'll know when you need something new, when your knowledge and skill set calls for it." And I think a lot of, particularly younger creatives, I think people, as they get older, maybe you have a little bit more disposable income to afford equipment, but young people, I think, get
Yeah.
enamored with the idea of equipment, right? Like, I need that latest camera. I need
Yeah.
the best of the best. And we did talk about this a
Yeah.
little bit, but do you still feel like this is true? And like, how's your view on this stand now after having a couple more years of professionally doing this?
Yeah, I definitely still agree with that statement. Because especially when I first started out, I felt like I did buy a lot of things that I guess didn't really need. So it's like later down the road, I eventually sold some stuff. But yeah, I feel like gear, like I said, matters to an extent. Because I've seen terrible videos and they were shot on like amazing cameras and stuff like that. And I've also seen amazing films that weren't shot on anything special at all. So it's like, it really comes down to your vision. It really comes down to the creativity of the person. I also like to cause I'm music based and everything like that.
Right.
So I like to kind of relate this to like a recording studio. Before I was recording in my house, I was recording in a little room. I never really went to an actual recording studio, so I was able to produce some nice, decently sounding music, and that was just all in like my bedroom. And you know compared to others where they're going to a big major studio with a bunch of fancy gear, sometimes when I listen to that, it's like, you could have just done that at home, so it's
Right.
like uh it it really comes down to the person using it, because they need to understand how to use the tools, you know what I mean? So I feel
Definitely.
like as long as you're educated to know how to use all this fancy equipment, you'll be able to maximize and use it to its fullest potential. Um, or you could even relate to this to like driving like a supercar or something like that.
Sure.
If you can't understand how to drive stick or like manual transmission, then that car is not really going to go anywhere.
Right.
You might as well just be driving a little Honda Civic.
Yep.
So it really just comes down to the person. Like, you really have to just take the time and learn the ins and outs of it all, whether it's a camera, whether it's lighting, the editing software. You just have to really put in that time and just start building off of it, rather than spending thousands of dollars buying the best stuff,
Right.
when you don't really know how to use it. So you're kind of just wasting your money. So
Yeah, and I think it also, something that people don't talk about is like equipment complicates things, right? Like the more equipment that
Yeah,
you add into the mix, it just gets that much more complicated to keep up with and then troubleshoot if something goes wrong. So, I think a step-by-step process in terms of like adding things to your kit, more or less, whether
yeah,
that's lighting or audio wise in terms of video, or photography wise if you're adding in strobes versus constant lights or natural light or whatever, but it just gets more complicated each thing you add into it. So if you're still coming from this basic understanding and you're just trying to work towards a point of uh upping the level of what you're creating, I think first and foremost, you need to focus on what you're doing and be the best at what that is before you go about adding in other elements. You got to have that confidence and understanding of the equipment too before, if you go and I know if I went into a production that you were doing film wise, I would be clueless, there's adding equipment doesn't necessarily make the visual better. It's going to just, it does when you know how to use it, I guess is the best way to put it. So like that experience
yep.
comes with time and it's just something that you got to kind of work towards.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I guess even just buying more equipment, that's just really just more work on yourself.
Yeah,
Especially
true.
like if you're working by yourself, and then you just bought a whole bunch of lights and stuff like that. That's just more trips back and forth to the car for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's more stuff you got to carry up and down the stairs and stuff like that. So, a lot of people, I guess, don't really look at it that way. Like, cause I know I didn't,
Oh yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
buying all these lights and stuff. And I'm like, dang, now I gotta run like back and forth of the car like 5 times and carry a bunch of bags and stuff like that.
Dude, I didn't think
Sometimes
about
it's a
that either.
pain, but
I didn't think
yeah,
about it either. And I was
sometimes,
doing productions last year for an ad agency. It was just like talking head kind of stuff, video wise. And
yeah,
man, I was like, I cannot keep doing this. Like I had all this equipment. I ended up buying a wagon. I'm like carting around a little wagon with me everywhere I go because I'm like, this is such a
yeah,
pain just carrying all this stuff around.
yeah,
That's a great point too.
yeah.
But dude, Keith, thank you so much, man. I was super stoked to have you on today. Like I said, I've done a little bit of video work here, nothing near the capacity that you were. So it's been super enlightening just to hear, your perspective on things and where you came from to where you're at now. So I definitely appreciate your time. But at this point in the podcast, I usually like to kind of lighten things up with some more fun questions, less deep dives into business and your past and stuff. You got time for a few more questions here?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet, sweet. So this one, I'm really curious to know this because you've worked with some big name artists, but who's one musical artist that you'd personally love to have the opportunity to work with? In any industry of music, or sorry, maybe not industry music, but any genre of music.
Okay. Well, that's a dang.
I know
There's
it's a,
like,
there's probably 100 of them, right?
yeah, yeah. I would love to work with Drake. I think that would be amazing. I love his music.
Yeah.
Also, uh, probably man, like just some bigger, like the Weekend.
That'd be tight.
Bruno Mars that'd be cool. Like, yeah.
So staying within the hip hop R&B field, then
Yeah.
is
So
that
yeah.
bread and butter for
Staying
you?
with
You
the
feel like?
yeah. Yeah. I feel like, because I mean that's like the type of music I love.
For sure.
Other than like techno music and like house music, but they don't really do music videos for that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I mean something within the hip hop, R&B, genre. I feel like that would be pretty cool for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah, I would honestly, I'd love to see what like you and Drake or you and The Weeknd would produce, because like both of those, when you said that, I'm like trying to visualize like your work and then combining it with them, and I think you guys would create some really crazy stuff. So manifest that, man. Bring that thing to life because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I mentioned The Weeknd just because with his like the Super Bowl performance.
Right.
I think he did a performance too on VMAs. Like the production stuff is like wild. Like it's just so cool. I would love to be like part of something like that. And yeah, it's just like motivation to see all that. So
Yeah, his Super Bowl performance was I don't know, pretty controversial, I guess. Like maybe not so much as some other ones that have happened in the past, but like I'm curious, like what was your
yeah.
thoughts from a film standpoint, you know, less from the production side, because the production was obviously amazing. They had so much stuff going on, all the lights, and like it was very
Yeah.
detailed. But like the one thing that stood out to me was when he was in that like mirrored room with all the lights and he was acting like he was like holding the camera. So like what was your
Oh yeah,
actual
that was crazy.
what was your opinion on like the actual film work for that?
Oh yeah, that's I that would have been wild, I think, because like especially with like there's like 100 people like
Right.
walking in through the shot and stuff like that. I can't even imagine what it's like, trying to reverse that because
Oh
like
yeah.
I feel like I'll be bumping into the camera would be bumping into everyone and stuff like that. So like that was crazy just to see like how everything was choreographed because I can only imagine what like the practice was like. So
Oh, it was super tight.
um but yeah. So that was like really inspiring to just. I would love to do something like that. That was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was definitely really interesting, I thought, and like the way they made it almost look like a first person or like a he was in control of it. Like in that one specific scene, I
Yeah.
thought was like, I don't know if I necessarily like I've never seen it done before, but like I didn't necessarily love that, but I loved the idea of that. Like it seemed like it was a really cool way to go about doing it. And then you're right, the choreography thing, man. I mean, at least when I'm working on a set, when it's like about photography, anything
Yeah.
behind me is like totally out of sight, out of mind. I have no idea what's happening, and I know for a fact I would have crashed like at least
Yeah, I
10
know
times.
exactly. Yeah.
That would not
Yeah,
gone
right.
well if
Like,
it had been me. Um,
yeah. Been out of frame or something like that.
I would have definitely knocked over a dancer or two.
Yeah.
So next question for you here. Let's hop in a time machine. We're gonna go back to when you were kind of just starting out in videography. You know, you got your GoPro, you got your camcorder, and you're going out and you're making these videos. What would you tell yourself? You know, what piece of advice would you tell yourself back then that you now know that would maybe help you advance your career a little quicker, or you know, give you some insight into creating some higher quality visuals?
I think just learning lighting a lot more, I feel like, because I think that's kind of like one thing I lacked in when I was just first starting out. Lighting is such a major part now. And, I never kind of realized how to like, I guess, modify light, whether it's,
Right.
going through diffusion and bouncing light certain ways. And I feel like, because like you could do a lot with just one light,
Yeah.
and I guess I never really realized that, later down the road, and seeing all these fancy things that are on stands, I was like, oh, what is that? Like, how does this work? I wish I kind of knew that back then, because I feel like that would have helped me, whether I was shooting on my first Nikon camera, or even just a camcorder, lighting was major, and just kind of like being able to work with that. I think it would have made some of my videos a lot better for sure.
Yeah, I can see that even from a standpoint of just working in natural light. I think a lot of people starting out kind of
Yeah.
struggle with understanding, you know, just where to position a subject when in relationship to the sun or, you know, where
Yeah.
depending on what you're working in and have, you know,
Yep.
because once you add lights into the mix, it gets so much more complicated anyways. But like I think a fundamental thing that most people in their beginnings of their career in photography or videography that need to work on is just understanding your light source that you're working with when it's natural light, because a lot, you know, it's not always the best light. You know, that's what like I always see people say natural light's the best light, and in some scenarios it's not. So you got to understand how to work with it and really make it work to your advantage when you're in
Yeah.
those scenarios. I totally get that.
Yeah.
So what are some? I
Yeah,
know
for
you.
sure. Like especially
Oh, go
okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
No. You're good, man. Continue.
Oh no, because
I don't want
I
to
was
cut
just
you off.
gonna, yeah, I was just no, it's all good. Yeah, no, I was just gonna kind of go off of that, like the natural light thing, because like back then, before, I used to just think like a super sunny day was amazing to shoot in,
Right.
and everything was just overexposed. And like now that I'm kind of realizing, oh, you got to diffuse that light to make it better and stuff like that, or even just like using ND filters. So
True.
So yeah, just understanding, natural light, understanding light in general was just a major thing I should have just learned back then. So yeah.
Yeah, right. It's always to look back on old work and see those like super contrasty hard light shots that you may have taken with the sun just blasting somebody in the face.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you're like, "Oh man,
yeah.
what was I thinking back then?" I definitely have
Yeah,
more than a
exactly.
handful of those. Oh, high school was a rough year for that. It was bad. It was just everything out in bright sunlight. So I know you brought this up. You brought up a couple names throughout this episode, but I was just curious as to what cinematographers or DPs do you look to for inspiration, or do you kind of like look at as sources of creative, I don't know, just creative energy for yourself?
Yeah, so I guess as far as like bigger names, AZ Production, AM Visuals, Jacob Owens from Buff Nerds, um, Potato Jet is one of the guys that I watch on YouTube. Like he's really knowledgeable. And then as far as like the local side, this guy named Fitz, Nick Spoljaric. He's a young dude, but he's doing a lot of crazy stuff now. So they do some great work. And yeah, like, I don't know, as far as like, there's so many around here in Cleveland that just really kind of motivate me. And even just photographers. I mean, like even yourself, like I see your work, Tyler's work, really great stuff that I see. And, just seeing stuff like that is motivation
Yeah.
to, whether it's, photography, videography, yeah, any sort of creative aspect is like I love seeing it within this community, within the city is
Definitely.
dope. For
Well,
sure.
thanks for throwing my name in that mix, but
Oh yeah.
no, I agree with you. I think Cleveland is a underrated city in terms of what we are able to produce creatively, and I think that obviously it's no New York or LA in terms of the names that we have in the area, or in those areas, but at least here, I really do think a lot of Cleveland creatives get slept on because there's some great visuals that are coming out, whether it is stills or motion images that are coming out of Cleveland that are, they're receiving recognition on a pretty substantial level. And I've seen that over the course of the past 3 or 4 years really grow. And it's been inspirational to me too, because to see, and I hate this aspect of it, but like I see people grow in Cleveland and they get to this point where they're creating, at such a high level, and then they move out to somewhere else, and I'm like, it makes me want to rip my hair out because I'm like, man, like we're
Oh
just
yeah.
losing these great creatives to these, which I can't blame them. Like, how are you not going to go out to LA when you're
Yeah,
creating art at that level? But like, it's sad to see him
yeah,
go for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy though, because like sometimes the opportunity is out there, but
Yeah,
I definitely, it's nice though seeing, the hometown people, holding it down here. So that's always nice.
yeah, 100%. So next questions for you. We do a lightning round here. These are just really simple questions. Just pick one or the other. Don't really have to elaborate on why if you don't want to. If you feel like you need to, feel free to just chime in on
All
that.
right.
But this is just going to be some real quick string of questions here. So you're a Mac and P. I'm going to start that over. That didn't go well for me. Are you a Mac or PC guy?
Mac. I'm a
Mac.
Mac guy.
Right on.
Yeah. Yep.
Zooms or
I mean,
primes?
because I guess really everything that I use is Mac. I mean, even the iPhone.
Yeah.
So AirPods. I mean, it just all streamlines. I feel like just the AirDrop thing is just way too easy.
Dude, I
So,
was just talking
yeah.
to somebody about that like over the weekend. I think I was just like, how could you not? I mean, it would throw off my entire thing just to have like a Android phone. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
just so
Yeah.
convenient
Yeah.
having everything on one platform, and then PC's just
Yeah.
not quite there yet. All right, next
Yeah.
question:
Yeah.
Zooms or primes?
Ah. Oh man, I'd say primes because like that's what I mainly shoot on.
Okay.
I'm actually filming this on a Zoom, but yeah, primes for sure. Yeah, I just like I don't know. I
Get
feel
that
like
one eight,
it
one
teaches
four.
you. Yeah, yeah, and it also I guess it teaches you like composition in a way rather than just kind of zooming in on
Sure.
on an image. It kind of teaches you how to you know whether you got to shoot everything with a 50, that it kind of teaches you to just work with that focal length. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to go with primes.
Yeah, you're right. It makes you work a little bit more. You already answered this question, but Premiere or Final Cut?
Yeah, Final Cut.
Final Cut. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
You prefer shooting in studio or on location?
On location. On location. Yeah, I just love being able to see, I guess, like the scenery. You know what I mean? It's very, rather than, I mean, I love studio work too, but I feel like it's limiting. So like,
Yeah,
I feel like, being on set is just much more organic, more real.
Yeah, I think, and like you got to put a lot more in studio, I would imagine, especially from a video perspective, from a budget standpoint, in order to get a seemingly location look to it, right? Like if you want to create a location studio, it's going to cost money versus actually going to that place. Cool. What's your favorite camera accessory?
Oh man, camera accessory. I would have to say, I'd have to say my small HD monitors. I think that's just like my major thing. I got 2 of them, and they're definitely helpful. The fact that you could kind of like make different pages of presets and stuff. You could add LUTs on there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very, very helpful. Yeah, very helpful.
Man, your rig is something else, dude. Every time I see you suit up in that, my back hurts.
Oh yeah. I guess that would be another thing for one of my favorite things too, because I know before I would just use my arm. Like I didn't have like the whole vest thing. So like after like a 1 minute take, oh man, my arm was like falling off. Like it was just sore.
I believe it, man.
But yeah, now it's helpful. So.
But yeah, no, the HD monitors, I get that too. Cool. Well, I just saw you pick it up. Are you a coffee, tea person, or which one do you prefer? Coffee. I know. We've both been drinking our coffees.
Cold brew guy.
Yep, dude. Same here. I'm cold brew all the way. Are you a cat or dog person?
Dog.
Same.
We got a puppy. She's in the cage right now. But
she's been good, dude. She's right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She's down. Yeah, she's down here. So
man, I wish my dog's like 4 and still interrupts me when I'm doing stuff. All right. Are you a drink of choice? Are you a beer, wine, or liquor person?
Liquor. I'm a tequila guy.
Tequila. Interesting. So. Okay. Are you a morning or night person?
Dang. Let's see. Man, I don't know, both. Because like honestly,
I
stay up. Yeah, no, I mean I stay up pretty late. I used to stay up way later, but now like I kind of go to bed a little bit after midnight. But I'm when I'm awake, like in the morning, I'm up, like I'm ready to go. So like I don't have any problems waking up early in the morning. So I guess a little bit of both.
I wish I was more like that. I feel like today I woke up at like 5 o'clock, and that's not normal. I just like woke up and couldn't fall back to sleep. But like usually it's like, dude, I have such a struggle getting out of bed. So I respect that.
I'd have to say though, I'm a night guy because whenever I do editing, it's strictly at night. I feel like I can't really edit during the day. But
I feel that.
So I'd have to say more so night.
I have like more of a productivity thing in the evenings, like where I want to get stuff done, and like I definitely relate to that. Cool. So I like to ask everybody the same question, just because I like to hear like diverse ideas, or like where it comes from, or like where you may learn from. But if you're a reader, do you have any recommended reading material when it comes to cinematography, business, videography in general, like anything, or creativity? Could be a blog.
It's not. I don't even think it's a blog. Well, maybe they do make it into. I guess nofilmschool.com.
Okay,
that's a real cool web page with a bunch of articles. They actually link most of them to videos, but I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that is a real great website for like reading material. Whether it's like they show some tips and tricks. They kind of elaborate on some behind the scenes stuff. And they do gear reviews too. So I feel like that is definitely a great source for just learning new stuff. So nofilmschool.com. I think that's that's a good one. So
yeah, so like regularly updating and a full encompassing place to learn more about video, whether it's gear reviews
yeah.
or just in general. Nice. Okay, that works for
Hmm.
sure. Cool. So right on, man. At this point in the episode, I do like to open the floor to you, so you can kind of plug yourself, anything you got going that you want people to know about, or just to let people know where they can find you online. So if they want to find out more about you or you know your the films that you're creating, where would they look to find that stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, you can find all my work Instagram at Cinematics. So SCENEAMATIX, and my Facebook Keith Dela Rosa. You can find me on there. That's my personal page. And then youtube.com/cinematics. I usually post like music videos I've done. It's all on there. Website cinematics.com. And I think, yeah, there's a contact page on there. You could hit me up if you want to work on stuff. And, yeah, I'm open to whatever, whether it's, new people too. If you guys want to just come on set, ask me any questions, let's, let me help you, get it going. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what's up. I mean, that's a huge resource. Anyone listening, I mean, to have a professional just say, "Hey, hit me up. I want to help." That's awesome. So definitely get in touch with him
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want to learn more from a cinematographer perspective, or if you want to get into music videos. I can't think of a better person to reach out to than Keith. So definitely
Yeah.
check him
Yeah.
out on social media. Get in touch with him. And Keith, I got one question here from a listener who submitted about something video related. You got time for one more there?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
Sweet. All right. Sweet. That's what I meant to say. So this comes
it.
this this comes from Craig. Craig says, "I've been taking photos for years, but recently videography has really caught my attention, and I want to explore it more. I can't really afford to upgrade to a nicer camera specifically for video, but I was considering investing in like a gimbal. Do you have any suggestions, or should I be looking at other equipment instead of going for a gimbal?"
Well, so I guess nowadays, as far as gimbals go, they're definitely a lot more affordable. I remember when I first started, I remember I bought a the Ronin M, and I think it was like $1,400 back in the
Wow.
day. And now like they sell the handheld one, the Ronin S, and I think they have a smaller one now too, the Ronin SC, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that's like it's like $300 now. So if you want to go with the gimbal, that's great. But they also make like like glide cams or like manual stabilizers. They pretty much do the same exact thing, but it's more of a learning curve. So if you want to save money, you can go with a manual stabilizer. It's definitely a lot harder to learn, but you're essentially going to get the same thing that you would get with a gimbal. Um, but I wouldn't say a gimbal is a bad choice at all nowadays, just because they're a lot more affordable. But you just have to realize that's just another piece of gear that you're going to have to charge up. You got to make sure the batteries are charged up for that. So that's like one thing you got to make sure before you go on a shoot. You don't want to get to a shoot and your gimbals doesn't have battery, and then you won't be able to
Right.
use it. So and also, I feel like when people do buy gimbals, they kind of rely on it. So then every shot just looks robotic, So in a way, you don't want to just get a gimbal right off the bat. But if you've already had some experience shooting video here and there, a gimbal might be a good choice. So I feel like it's situational. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if like you're really just first starting out, I feel like don't even bother getting a gimbal. Just maybe even get a lens that has in-body stabilization in it. That can help with some of your images or some of the shots. But if you're ready for it, if you got the budget for it for a gimbal, yeah, go for it, because they're definitely a lot more affordable these days.
Yeah, that's some good info there, and the lens thing hadn't even crossed my mind, but yeah, I mean that may even double up for you, and you can use that for both photo and video then too, and you
Yeah.
kind of double up, and you can cross over to both worlds there, and you're not just limiting yourself into video by getting a gimbal. But Keith,
Yeah.
what do you use personally? Do you use gimbals, or are you more of like a steady cam kind of guy?
Yeah, so when I'm using my Sony, I sometimes use a gimbal for some shots, just because it's like way easier to travel with, and like
Sure.
and just a smaller form factor. Because like before, when I had the Ronin M, that was like with the two handles and everything, I would have to carry around a big Pelican case for it.
Right.
But now, like with the Ronin S, you can just stick that in your book bag. It's easy to set up. And then when I'm shooting with a Red, I use a Steadicam, just because I have more control over it. So
Sure.
a lot more control, and it's not as big and bulky. Because with a cinema camera, those gimbals are like $8,000, and you're talking a giant. You're talking a giant thing, and it's way heavier. I guess, it really depends on the situation. But, if I'm just shooting with a little mirrorless camera, a gimbal is pretty nice to have. But at the same time, I really don't like rely on it all the time. You got to have a dynamic of shots where you use something handheld, get some handheld shots in there, and, mix it up with some gimbal stuff. That way, the entire video doesn't look exactly the same. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, I'd not even thought about doing that, honestly. Like, I always try to stay as steady as possible, but I guess when it comes to like a music video, that kind of breaks it up a little bit and gives you a more dynamic video when you're doing something like that. That's a cool tip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
So thanks, Craig, for submitting that question. And to everyone else out there who's listening, if you have any questions and you want a professional to answer them on an episode, please email them over to social@thepixelconnection.com for a chance to have them answered on the podcast. But dude, Keith, thank you again so much for joining me today, man. With that concludes our episode for today. So I wish you the best of luck with your business, and I can't wait to see all the epic videos that you're going to be creating this year.
Cool. Appreciate that, man. It was a pleasure to be on the show, man. So, it was great talking to you. Great conversation for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. All right. You have a good one.
All right. Take it easy, man.
What an awesome episode today, guys. I really enjoyed talking to Keith and finding out a little bit more about professional videography and what it takes to be a professional videographer in today's day and age. And Keith's done a great job of making a name for himself and working with some really talented people. I hope you guys got as much out of this as I did. But I just had to let you guys know the Pixel Connection has a great offer that they want to extend to all of our listeners of the Talking Pixels podcast. Are you looking to try out some new gear without committing to a big purchase? From camera bodies to lenses and microphones, the crew at the Pixel Connection has you covered with a wide variety of rental gear. Take advantage of the Pixel Connection's impressive stock of rental equipment with 20% off your next rental using the code TALKINGPIXELS. Visit rentals.thepixelconnection.com to explore this great opportunity. And I have to say, guys, the Pixel Connection has allowed me to rent a ton of equipment from them in the past, and it has been so helpful to try to make decisions based on what equipment I might want to purchase next, or just try to change things up and get a different look that I don't typically get out of my own equipment. So be sure to take advantage of that 20% off of your next rental using the code TALKINGPIXELS. That's all capitalized letters, guys. And I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and I'll see you in the next one.